thing.
Yeah.
Yep. I guess I can kind of see that.
There's a performing arts center in our town, and then after some year, I don't know what happened, but it became all country, all pop country.
Pop country, not even like wagon wheel stuff.
No, it would be like Zach Brown.
There's like pop rap country now, like with beats behind it and shit.
Or it'd be like Hootie and the Blowfish, like
Yellow Wolf.
No, I'm talking about like there's like, I don't know names or anything, but like I've heard them. Like there's country songs that like have beats behind them, but it's not even like the big and rich like cartoon stuff. It's literally just like love songs with like a beat, but like the guy's country crooning over it and shit. But like no, like when I was in high school in Hilton Head in the 2000s, there's a split of like you know country kids and people who weren't into country, but most of the kids who were like most hardcore into country were kids who were like from Italian families from Jersey and shit. Like, you know,
so you're saying that I can invent Nashville drill is what you're saying. I just gotta send these beats to like T Swizzy.
That would be better. That could be a fucking wave.
Yeah. I missed that. I don't know if this press conference already happened, but our fearless mayor announced he's tackling drill, isn't he? He's going to make he's going to exterminate every drill rapper. Watch out. We're on a fucking watch list now for being in this apartment.
Exactly, like as New York drill took London drill sound, New York's mayor will also take London's police action against drill music.
Is that a thing in London?
Yeah, it's a big thing. No face,
what
no case.
What if Adams just copied the London one to a T, didn't even bother to edit or anything? He's like, we're going to cut down on knife crime in New York. Like,
what does that mean though? In London, they're like, it's illegal to have a drill show.
No, it's like they can prosecute you based on what you say in like a music video. But like the saying "no face, no case" comes because everyone's wearing a mask in these videos. So like you can't be identified. So
that's
saying no face, no case.
I'm pretty sure that the precedent on that here has already been set decades ago.
Right. There's definitely more protections for us here in the U.S. than there are in like the UK about free speech.
The main reason why Kevin Thelwell went back to the UK was because of the looser libel law. Actually, he wanted to sue more people.
He couldn't handle the ferocious press of New York media.
Exactly. I bet Gerhard Struber has gotten into this new pop rap country because the last week I heard him saying that ain't nobody gonna tell me how to live. That's the mindset. That's the anthem for this week.
It's Alex!
Episode 201, A View from 202. What a week!
It was alright.
What a busy, crazy week. As once again proving that everything in Red Bull's world only happens once View from 202 records an episode so that it can become outdated.
Well, I was gonna say it was truly a land of ups and downs and ups again, because I thought, after episode came out, and then Struber at the press conference the very next morning, like as I was editing it, saying, "Oh, I'm so mad that our episode's no longer relevant." And then the Thelwell thing happened. I'm like, "Oh man, this makes our episode even worse." And then the game happens. Like, okay, no, episode's relevant again.
Episode was right the whole time.
Stay the course.
I do believe that it still was pretty relevant in a way the whole week, but yes, it changed. I mean, also the presser on Wednesday really was like, even if we had published it Tuesday night, like nobody would have listened to our episode by Wednesday morning anyway. So, but there are really three and a half things that happened this week, of course. To cover it, it's the four of us per usual: Cork, Sam, Peaches, and Brit. But those 3.5 things, of course, were the press conference on Wednesday, the first time we've heard from Gerhard Struber in months directly, right? Then Friday news dump. Day before the season starts, we find out that Kevin Thelwell is departing to take on the job at Everton. And then Saturday, we of course have a nice solid 3-1 win away at San Jose to start the season. And then either Sunday or Monday, I can't remember which, we announce officially that we're bringing in striker Ashley Fletcher on loan from Watford for half a season with an option to buy. So what order should we go? Should we just go chronologically here? Wednesday through Sunday?
I don't know if it's worth rehashing kind of like as things went on, because, I feel like given the way things panned out, we should just talk about how it feels like collectively now,
That's very true to form for you to suggest it that way. Well, I'll talk generally how I feel about the press conference first. So, I was mostly looking for what, chronological or reverse chronological as the answers, none of the above, but that works too.
It was admirable, man.
Yeah.
we respect the spirit.
Well, I meant that in should we look at the press conference from Struber as like the lens now instead of like trying to analyze it from when we heard it then?
Well, I mean, we can still blow by it and give our thoughts on it without letting it to cloud everything.
So this was the first presser with Struber in months, right?
Yeah, I mean the first one with the U.S. New York press since the playoff game last year.
Because he's been giving his Austrian interviews, right?
Right. Thelwell did a conference in December when roster stuff was going on, but Struber hadn't spoken since the playoffs.
So, did Jesse ever talk to like U.S. media about like wanting to coach the U.S. team? Because
Jesse?
Yeah, I'm trying to make parallels here, because I feel like Struber's trying to do that with like the Austrian team a little bit, as like he's dropped those hints, right? Like my dream to one day coach the Austrian.
I don't know. I don't remember Jesse having any interest in the USA job.
Well, I mean, like there's so many like rumors attached when he was like unattached to I think things, and he's like, oh yeah, well like, I'm not looking at the US now, but he's like talking to still like the general media around kind of the national team discourse. So I feel like Struber's kind of doing that right now.
I don't know. I think the main thing for our purposes this week is sort of the answer he gave about the state of the squad. That certainly took me by surprise on Wednesday. I was posting a couple things on the team account, essentially just joking as we were earlier that a lot of the comments coming out for this press conference seem to really undercut or really contradict some of the, sort of qualified optimism that we had on the episode we recorded on Tuesday night. That said, I will say I actually have not watched the video of the press conference yet. So maybe I will just ask for, Cork, especially since you were there, you were the one who asked the question here. So like, what exactly did Struber say about the current state of the squad that got us all fretting a little bit for a moment last week?
So I asked a question, the opening question of the conference, actually, that was kind of that I thought was like a big picture question that was more or less teeing him up to give a boilerplate response, but a response nonetheless, kind of extolling the qualities of the squad that he had with him. I asked him because he had said last year that the team wasn't quite ready in 2021 and that he was still instilling tactics and getting new players meshed in and all that, and that he still needed a couple of pieces of quality, which was an understandable statement, that he probably needed another transfer window or two to, in his words, turn the dream of trophies into a goal. So I asked him, do you think it's a goal now? Do you think it's moved from a dream to a goal? And he just kind of, he started with a little bit of a sigh and then went into, the first line I think he said was, well, the facts show me a different picture. And then said, we had hoped to bring in 3, 4, 5 key players in this winter transfer window, and that they have found a very difficult picture, is what he said. And that didn't happen. And that apparently, as of that conference, the only signings the team had made were Lewis Morgan, Dylan Nealis, and Luquinhas as far as, senior signings. And, I guess he was basically saying that wasn't enough for him. And then
did he mention defensive midfield explicitly here, or was that somewhere else?
That was a few questions down the line, because he kind of fell into it again in some other questioning that he got where he said that, defensive midfield and left back were the places where he felt somewhat thin. And and apparently, I mean, actually, in a little bit, before the press conference where he kind of dropped some of these bombs, we had kind of known that Ashley Fletcher was in the works. So I guess he didn't mention striker for that reason, because he knew something was coming along the line there. But it's predictable or whatever. He must have thought that striker was a problem position at some point in the offseason too that was not getting dealt with quick enough. So I mean, it was kind of like you said, Brit, sort of undercut any sense that that we had fairly organically that the squad was pretty solid and ready to compete this year. And like I said, I thought that I was setting him up to sort of say that and boost his squad, and then he went the complete opposite direction. And then we'll get to the news on Friday then, but that sort of, changed your perspective on a lot of what he said, I suppose, but we can get to that later.
So first of all, you're admitting to being a plant for softball questions for the front office.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to get quotes. I mean, honestly, but
but also
well, it's like they say, you want to give the person the rope to hang themselves, right?
I mean, he can do whatever. I mean,
that's what he did.
Exactly. I mean, I don't.
I was gonna say that's the most dramatic scenario you could have come out of that, and it's on a certain level.
It was great for my career. Let's not get twisted there.
For the cloud, I
mean, if I don't know which part of me is being a shill because that's not, I guess, this reaction.
Right. This is when you slipped him the prop betting odds of him answering negatively. But based on our preseason episode, I'm aligned to the fact that I'm kind of concerned about the defensive midfielder position too. But you're being a bit dramatic about it.
Yeah, right.
That's what it is. It's this team is clearly better than last year.
It was funny, because as I was thinking back on that day, because we had just recorded, so it's still pretty fresh in memory, what we were saying. And I was saying we did talk a bit about defensive midfield, and we touched on some of these subjects, but it was, from what I understand, the tone sounds like he wasn't just maybe playing mind games or just being coy or critical or something. It sounded like he was legitimately disappointed, right?
Yeah. To me it sounds like a coddled European manager coming over here thinking that it's going to be all luxury and good.
I mean, maybe.
I threw some names around.
Yeah, let's not totally write off that option, But because I think the thing that rang my alarm bells the most was sort of the underlying idea that maybe he had to start over, or that we were that we had not accrued any sort of experience or learning from last year. Because one, even if you took him at his word for the amount of turnover that we had, which is, he seemed to be slightly overstating. There was another interview he gave somewhere saying that we had lost seven starters, which does not add up any way.
Yeah, very distorted way of portraying it. Yeah.
You count it. I tried to sit down and count with the most generous, widest lens possible, and I could not get anywhere close to 7.
I'll take the role of Struber apologist here, and Royer was a starter, but he was forced by the oppressive.
Is that even true?
Well, or you can say that for Diarra too. But I mean, the only way that tally works is if he's including the guys like Clark or Edwards who are coming back. So, I don't know.
So
Sean Davis, who as I said too, he spent literally every minute playing last season.
Davis, Duncan, and Goodman, and Fabio.
Yeah. And Fabio,
four starters
really playing out of position.
Yeah, 4 starters, and then by the end of the season, Goodman and Fabio were more kind of rotation
and
guys.
He did mention he didn't say striker, and we did get Ashley Fletcher,
and then maybe you can give him Reyes as being hurt. I don't know.
But then we have Long coming back,
right? Yeah. So and then you have patented Lans like a new signing Monson, which hasn't played at all. So I don't know. Anyway, I think even if all of that were true to the maximum extent, then I would still be thinking like, come on, dude, these guys have been managed by you and coached by you for over a year. You still shouldn't have to start over. And I think like the absolute worst case scenario that I was imagining, like that I don't think I even suspected was fully true, but just going all the way to the full end was that like, oh, this guy is like checked out and is like said, fuck it. This is impossible. They haven't given me enough to work on. Is just saying the stuff and like might not even be really trying that hard in training to try to like get these guys sharp because he feels like he's been given impossible.
Going full Almeida.
Yeah, and saying that he hates the sporting director, which could be an interesting thing with the news that came out. All this to say is that what we saw on Saturday seems to have been a very welcome bulwark against that. Like it looks like that worst case scenario is certainly not what happened, that we were in fact training, we were in fact building on our experience from last year, which still makes Struber's comments bizarre because I'm looking at the way we played on Saturday and I'm thinking like, yeah, of course we're better off than we were last year. Of course we're not starting over. I still have no idea what this guy's talking about. Even though I've been walked off the ledge a bit, it's still a very perplexing series of remarks.
Was his intent to slight Thelwell, who, I mean, we haven't really talked about yet, maybe. But was it just, I mean, you said, this might be like, Struber not all being there or being checked out, but is it that he might have thought Thelwell was checked out, not doing his job to the fullest capacity? I mean, is that what he was suggesting? But even then,
it's like, it kind of makes him sound a little weak here, right?
Right. I mean, I was going to say as well, like, there's definitely a better way to like have that criticism without like deflating your players. I think if they hear this, they're just like, okay, what the fuck am I doing?
That's my biggest concern, and my biggest issue with the comments is that it's kind of straight up crapping on his squad, the players who he works with every day, and the signings that were brought in, saying that they're not good enough. I mean, you could say, I mean, maybe he sincerely meant it more in a quantitative sense than a qualitative sense with his signings. And but it still could be interpreted the other way.
I mean, you heard him. Like, I'm assuming it's not like him just not having like a general Austrian aloofness and like taking a page from like Red Bull corporate management handbook.
No, not really that. And I don't think it was really him, having any issues with like, certain, parts of English or whatever. It was like, but I was going to say that I think there might have, especially with the news that came out on Friday, with Thelwell, that cast the comments in a different light, whereas he might have been trying to, and he didn't do a very good job, but trying to explain what was going on without explaining what was going on. I mean, he couldn't come out and say the sporting director has been interviewing in England for the last, 2-3 weeks and has been completely checked out. He was just kind of, struggling to find the words to say, we've been having a tough time here, trying to get signings done. Right. And it came out like that. And then we found out the news on Friday, and it,
which to me
adds up a little more, but
could be partially true. It seems unlikely to me that it's fully true, just given all the amount of business that we did.
Right.
And with the Thelwell thing as well, I mean, he takes the job at Everton, presumably gets an enormous raise, goes back to England, goes back to the Premier League, has a full couple months to go before he even has to worry about a transfer thing. It's a good gig, basically. Suffice it to say.
Yeah, I mean, you can't knock it.
And
they get relegated.
I mean, it depends on who you're asking. I mean, Everton's
honestly, though, maybe even if they get relegated,
That's
I mean,
true.
it would be
That's
historic.
true.
It would be their first relegation in the Premier League era. So it'd be shitty for Everton. But for him, it's like coming in after the transfer window, he gets maybe a full season in the Championship. It's like you can't possibly blame Thelwell right now if they get relegated.
They did
so
hire
like
a championship manager.
Yeah. So, but to that extent, I guess I'm saying that, it's, I think it's possible that there's really nothing we could have done that could have prevented him from taking this gig. But I think it's also possible that maybe it was a little bit of column A and B at the same time. Maybe Thelwell was initially thinking like, oh, I don't know, like I kind of took on this project here. Everton's a mess. And then when friction with Struber comes up or friction with someone else and he kind of gets a hard time, maybe that pushed him more to being like, fuck it. Maybe I'll take this golden parachute out of here. Maybe that's some version of what happened. It doesn't seem likely to me that he was totally checked out for a month, or if he did, he at least seems to have provided some notes or work for somebody to work on if we did this amount of business.
I mean, the Rolodex still feels very Kevin Thelwell with the signings. Right?
In theory, we put this all out, or like he's done a lot of the backroom work, just filling out different sporting positions and academy stuff that will right the ship for the club in the long term anyway. But the fact that this was a news dump on Friday before the season, 2 days after the manager goes and flames the entire squad for being shit, was really not a good combination. And probably even could have just been mitigated by the club itself by just having a couple more press availabilities or things earlier in the off season.
But like, arguably, did it blow over? Kind of. Like,
well, thankfully, the team had a really good win on Saturday.
I mean, we're still talking about how weird it was on Friday.
Yeah, but it's like if you take like a risk assessment kind of thing, like I guess it paid off.
I mean, look, you can do
one game though. I mean,
maybe it wasn't
like
ready,
for the press cycle, like from a PR standpoint, you know, like
you can still do a Friday news dump, but you could do it on the Friday before. Maybe that wasn't ready, but maybe you can have the press conference with Struber a week or 2 weeks before, so that if he's going to say that shit, he's not going to say it 2 days before Thelwell leaves. You know what I mean?
And at that point, he knew. Obviously.
But I was saying, like, if we're talking about it this way, like, would you rather have a week of us trying to like unpack everything Struber's saying then? Like, if he said something that out of pocket?
Dude, we're going to talk about the shit he did. It was weird.
Well, it was weird, but like, you know, like I feel like because it's so close now, it blew over like a lot quicker.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, that we're going to get to the fact that the game erased everything, but we still got to address that.
Right. No, I mean, like it might have been a misstep, but it turned out not to be a misstep.
I wouldn't say it was.
I think it softens the blow. I don't know if it's a misstep. I don't know if it's not a misstep.
I mean, it's not crazy to imagine an alternate universe. I mean, hell, last season was basically like this the whole season long, where 70th minute or so, it's 1-1. And if we don't score another goal right there, and maybe San Jose gets a cheapie or some freak thing, and we lose 2-1 going into week 2, none of what we're saying about the mitigating factor, like, you know, even if we look good and we looked like the better team, people would be freaking out right now. So I definitely not, I think, a sound approach to take. I mean, maybe there was no way to predict what Struber was going to say. I don't know. Definitely a very ballsy week. And I think
it is weird that if like no one predicted Struber would say stuff like that. Yeah,
you should know that. You should know that.
You should know what he was going to say.
Yeah. And part of the thing that also, just like him being so harsh on his own players is also bizarre, because it's like looking at Gerhard Struber's resume. He's most like into, you know, Barnsley is probably the only place he's probably worked with players better than we have here. Most of his career has been.
Ooh, I don't even know.
Yeah, maybe a couple though. You know,
maybe a couple.
I think it is. I think it is more likely than not that Carlos Coronel and Patrick Klimala are the two most talented players he's ever worked with in his career.
I would say like half of the squad are like the best players he's ever worked with.
So the fact that he was walking around being like, I can't work with this. It's like, one, you're at a point of your career when you should be billing yourself as like a miracle worker of like putting things together and like climbing your way up. You're not Pep, who like is, you know, doesn't have a good enough goalkeeper with his feet and he can just get 8 different ones he wants. And one, we did that for you anyway, by the way. You know, it's like, what are you talking about? Like what, you're going to ask, you know, all of our players to do it like the way you saw some guy in the Austrian 4th division do it 2 years ago? Like,
Phil Jagielskov.
Yeah. Phil Steiner, Gielka. So yeah, like what, absolutely bizarre. And it doesn't seem like it was mind games, and if it was, these really shit mind games. And really sent off the alarm bells there for a second. But that said, we went out on Saturday, we played a lineup that I think was pretty much in line with some of our expectations. I think, as Cork said on last Tuesday, you pretty much knew the 11 we were gonna have one way or the other, but the exact placement was up for grabs. What we ended up seeing is Frankie Amaya playing more reserved with Drew in midfield, and we see CCJ and Omir up top in the midfield, with Klimala leading the line. And then you saw Morgan and Tolkien as the wide players, so to speak. And then I guess, are we calling this a 3 at the back, like we saw on Saturday with Long and 2 Nielises?
Yeah. Definitely with how the game played out on Saturday, it was like a 3 at the back, mainly because San Jose rarely got the ball up enough that we needed 5 guys defending. Yeah. So, and the fact that we had 3 very athletic center backs who covered a ton of ground. Mm-hmm. We had Dylan Nielis playing as the left center back, even though he's right-footed. And then, even though he's right-footed and traditionally a fullback, perhaps winger, but instead we put him at center back. Struber seems to have a thing for short, mobile guys playing center back, which speaks to some kind of method, which I like. But the kind of the notable thing was that Morgan was playing on the right. There was a little bit of anxiety in the preseason that it seemed like he was lining up at right back in a lot of the lineups in the friendly games, and people were kind of saying, oh, well, first of all, the club really did. Thelwell and Struber themselves build him as an attacking signing when they brought him in the offseason. Mm-hmm. And then he's lining up as more of a wing back, which was where he was for a little bit at Miami. So that raised flags a little bit, but on Saturday, the way it played out was that, yes, Morgan was the right back, but Aaron Long was the right center back and was covering so much ground underneath him that Morgan was just flying into the attack. Morgan was going ahead, even though I think it's just very strange, staggering to have CCJ be an attacking right-sided player in front of Morgan. But the way it worked out with Morgan's mobility, he was jumping out in front of him, even in some cases, very much involved in the attack and getting to the touchline on many occasions, which was another theme of what we talked about, what we would like to see tactics improve this year. So Morgan providing that from a defensive position was, main part of the reason why he was one of the big attention grabbers, to everybody who watched this game. And just, a very, very impressive debut, that kind of speaks to how the defense worked.
Which, to bring it back to the preseason episode, I think, as I was saying, like, we did kind of like shift those. And it's largely because Aaron Long was able to push so far up, like almost like in a traditional fullback role, that we look like we're playing 4 in the back when we have like our wingbacks pushed so far up. And in a 3 at the back system in 2022, wingbacks are very much a creator role in these systems.
That's like what it was for Duncan last year. Morgan literally played the Duncan role in this game, but
more aggressive, more central,
more direct,
underlaps, overlaps,
going
good
deeper
upfield,
not waiting and taking too many touches. Just
but also Morgan's like a fucking baller, man. Like, he balls,
yeah. You have to say. He was just better.
He was delivering set pieces too with both feet. Yeah.
He is just better. Yeah. GGWP.
I guess Eric Long. Eric, who the fuck is Eric? Who the fuck is Eric? What caused that? Aaron Long is back.
Eric Nielis.
Is that the third brother?
Nielis. It's the next Nielis.
He's back though. He's great. And knock on wood, knock on all the wood you can find. He's probably going to be at the World Cup this year, if he is my guess.
He looked like he looked like he's been training this whole time.
Yeah, he looks fully fit. I mean, in fact, are we taking weeks off for the next international break, or are we playing through it? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Wouldn't be surprised if he's there too.
San Jose's a great team for him to start back up against too, just because their attack was so non-existent. It gives him a little. I think it's a nice way to ease back into match fit.
Also, his role, the way that he's playing it so aggressively, just suits his skill set so well. He can play as aggressively as he has been, and it doesn't really look like he's missing that much athleticism. And it's just really nice to have him back and be like stable. He feels safe. And
also seems like he was communicating well with everyone, because I feel like Nielis really kind of was one of the more organizing players on the pitch last year. So maybe with Long coming back, becoming the captain, maybe there'd be friction. There's no sign of that on Saturday.
A lot of nodding and pointing and nodding and pointing.
Yeah. That's, one thing I noticed from the clip that they published of Morgan is that he immediately already felt comfortable just, barking orders, in the good way at other players.
Yeah, that really stood out in the mic'd up video that they put out, that he was practically like a coach in the training that they were.
Another thing that stood out was he repeatedly mentioned like 4 or 5 times how much he hated playing against us when he was with Miami, or like how everyone there hated him. I was like, oh, good. That's what we're going.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So great debut for him. Frankie, I think very solid.
Surprising.
Well, I'm feeling good about my call last week.
Yeah.
That Frankie certainly still has the most potential to just catch people by surprise and make it more apparent that he basically just didn't really have a season last season, and that you can't really judge him on that. Not world beating, but I think very solid and showed, I think, some natural aptitude for that position on the field, which I think is promising. Also speaks to, or I think it's a useful answer to our question of like, who's going to pair with Drew that we had last week. It makes sense. Well, it doesn't really make sense, but it's consistent that CCJ plays further up the field. Still a little bit weird. For me, the question is, when Luquinhas gets here and he gets fit, is he going to replace CCJ or Omir on the field? To me, my more intuitive answer would be CCJ, but something tells me it's going to be Omir for some reason, which would be confusing. But hey, I'll see how it works out. But I think CCJ was already a little bit of a better fit than as opposed to last year, largely because we had Morgan there to provide a little bit more action going forward, and CCJ could kind of just play off of him instead of holding onto the ball in the final third up there. So already an improvement there, I think.
I feel like for Frankie Amaya, having the off season might have just, helped him kind of like settle in and become more comfortable and kind of shake off any confidence issues he might have had at the end of last season. Because, a lot of Frankie's body language was really kind of like poor last season, and it was kind of the way, just because things didn't go our way. I don't
know if it was even that his body language was poor. He was just like dead at the end of some games.
Yeah. He looks way fitter.
The last couple games that he got like subbed out of when he was still in the rotation kind of last year, he looked like he had just like done a death march. Could barely stand. So.
He'd only been getting a couple of minutes or whatever anyway during that time. So he looks like he's in it, like, a good vacation, good refresh. He's ready to take the storm. And
his dad was hanging out with Profe.
Nice.
Yeah. And you said, Cork, last week you said that maybe Amaya would have gotten a similar sort of reintegration of the squad as Drew might have after his little boot camp,
right?
If the results weren't so tight. And I think that maybe that was true. I hadn't really thought about it that way, because I do think he was certainly unfit or hurt somewhere in between the two last year, and maybe we'll see something more akin to his true level for this team. And we were linked with another midfielder this week, right? I don't know if he's more further back on the pitch, but the Jürgen Heil guy.
Oh, right, yeah, the guy from the Austrian league, Jürgen Heil,
the Jürgen Heil dude.
Jürgen GOL. He is a guy in his mid-20s. He's like 25, 26, who, first off, it's kind of a weird little wrinkle that he was playing amateur ball until he was like 21, 22, and is, pulled himself up by his bootstraps in the Austrian economic sense and made himself a pro. And then, hey there. But he was speaking in a press conference with his club, Hartberg, in Austria, and gave a weird little answer to a question that, I know Gerhard Struber. We chat. We're in each other's DMs, and kind of like a weird little coy sort of answer like that, where I guess, a journalist was asking like, are you connected to New York Red Bulls? So we'll see what happens there. I think this guy has his contract is running out in the summer. So maybe he's just a weird little like kind of flyer Struber takes on one of his homies, brings him in during the summer. But the other central midfield transfer thing that came out a little bit that we published in OAM yesterday was that CCJ is actually being looked at by Watford and Brighton as a potential summer signing. So stay tuned there. But I don't know. I mean, there's not Struber said in his post-game press conference, which was much more enjoyable on Saturday night, that there's one or two signings that they're trying to make happen in the next few weeks. Obviously Fletcher dropped the next couple days, so
new signing just dropped,
and then so you would imagine he's the one. So what that second signing is, there's not a whole lot of smoke out there just yet besides this Heil guy. As far as, and he's a central midfielder, left back being the other position that Struber said that we might need help in. There's been a little bit of news that just broke in the moments before we started recording here on Tuesday night. Red Bulls 2 the reserves are playing a friendly against Westchester United, the amateur club. And not only is Jason Pendant been taken, out of the, shipping container. He was living next door to Sam for a little bit. Jason Pendant is back in the mix. And then also Mustafa Kiza, who was with Montreal the last couple of years in MLS, full MLS player for a couple of years, who was a left back who is now trialing with RB2. So little bit to monitor for the next little bit there. But it does sound like, there's at the very least some emergency left back depth right now. So we'll see how that goes. So maybe that is a signal that central midfield, defensive midfield will be where the last kind of senior signing is.
I mean, based on the San Jose game, we were definitely apparently not afraid to substitute in our youth.
Yeah, there's also true. Daniel Edelman in the mix in defensive midfield, and he obviously made his debut on Saturday.
He made his debut kind of early in the match too. I mean,
it was pretty bold. I mean, I think it was still tied maybe when they came on.
I think it was 2-1 at that point.
2-1? Okay.
Yeah, because we got the yellow, right? And that's what led to him being taken off.
But yeah, it was like
60th, 70th minute.
It was not a,
insignificant garbage time. Yeah.
And I think Serge Ngoma and the
who I did not realize was that young.
I didn't realize. Also, apparently the exact same age on his debut as Eddie Gavin to the day.
Yeah,
to the day. Is wild. And I guess was it just Edelman and
didn't
Ngoma
have quite as memorable.
Ngoma came. I guess it was a double sub. It came on with Barlow though. Yeah. Made their debuts. The team tweeted out a very heartwarming clip of the academy guys are all a bunch of the 14 and 15-year-old academy guys were watching the game together, and they all cheered when Ngoma and Edelman came on, which was a cool thing to push. But definitely showing no hesitation to play our young guys. And I mean, was Omar Sow on the bench there too? I mean, it was interesting.
I don't think he was actually, even though he was.
The only reason I thought he was because Shep had called. Had said that he came on the field for the sub.
I had a couple. I confused.
So I thought the same thing. Yeah. I was like, wait.
I did confuse a couple. I think the new Nealis and Morgan a couple times. I got a little confused with too.
I did because of on the field location though. I think he assumed that Dylan might be on the right side of the pitch.
Our players look very. There's like 3 or 4 basic type of Red Bulls player right now, like with the haircuts and heights and skin tones.
Yeah. We have a couple of default characters.
Morgan also looks exactly like Connor Lade, has been pointed out too.
Scottish laid.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Ngoma and Edelman both, they looked like pro players. They didn't look like Ali Dia out there.
No, it was a flex.
Yeah,
it was another one of those early seasons up on the academy players flex. Maybe I'm just saying maybe, or is it?
I think we still need to see a little bit more of them to see kind of what their eventual roles will be, because in this game, especially in the context they were brought on, they were just kind of hustling and moving wherever they could.
There was one sequence in the second half where I think it was Edelman, Ngoma, and one other young guy or something who were
Tolkien.
Maybe we're all trying to transition us out, or there's a bit of they needed to clean up something and had the potential to transition us out of getting the ball out of our own third, and like they didn't make a mistake, but they definitely were making their debuts. Yeah. I was like, okay, but they didn't make a mistake though. That's good.
I feel like I know what play you're talking about, and they just kind of pinged it off each other. They got it out. Yeah.
The who else debuted against San Jose though? Tyler Adams.
Oh,
I think he was 18 though, not 16.
No,
but yeah, that was his first game. Is in.
That's right.
2017, I think.
No,
in between
2016.
In between
he
CCL
became a regular in 2017, but he had that one little
the one debut, the one half.
No, he started
right
on one out against San Jose away in either 16 or 17. But so promising signs. Lucas Monzon was on the bench, didn't see him play though, but
that was I lost my train of thought was that I think he was weirdly not on the bench. Cameron Harper not on the bench.
Was Monzon not on the bench?
I was mentioning okay. Monzon was there, yeah.
Okay,
but I should pull it up now just to make sure. But
I don't think Cameron Harper was there.
No,
which is
no. We had two keepers though.
Right, yeah.
Marcucci and Mera, and then we had Monzon.
We are to
Clark.
Keep up. Who's playing more, Harper or
Pendon. We're still at 0-0.
Well,
Pendon's playing reserve friendlies.
Yeah,
that doesn't count.
That's more minutes than Harper.
No, it's not. It's not even a real USL game.
That's true.
There's several people on that squad tonight who aren't even signed to a contract.
So was not on the bench, but Zach Ryan, the homegrown signing, was.
So we did sign him.
Yeah, and but no Harper. So I imagine is more likely to probably just be a knock or something, but Harper is there's something going on there. Yeah.
I feel like Harper is just he can be a squad player for a year or two and see.
I think he's 21, 22 now. I mean, he's not necessarily a spring chicken.
Yeah, but that's he could still be a squad player. Every team
just reading between the lines, his best hope is probably if Struber gets promoted somewhere in Europe and we get a new manager who actually rates him, because we've seen Struber be pretty critical and sub him off after, and then he was about to come on in a game and then something happened and he abruptly pulled him off. Seems like the trust is extremely low there, just based off of those kind of couple of events, but we'll see. I do think Nico Politis, the Navy goalkeeper, is also playing tonight in that friendly.
Georgetown.
Nicopolitis
is the Georgetown keeper whose dad was the Greek national team keeper. Nosita is the Navy guy who's 7 feet tall, but is still going to the academy.
Still in basic training.
Yeah, because he's
okay.
Yep,
not the Navy guy.
Got to ship out to the Eastern Mediterranean soon.
Yeah, he's gonna go personally block the Dardanelles. But so the goals themselves on Saturday, we see Klimal get off the mark. Lovely. Gonna get one goal from Weekward Patrick, obviously. Gonna get 34 goals.
Him scoring a goal means +2 goals for the rest of the year.
It's additive. And then
it worked this week. It'll work every week.
Mm-hmm.
We get Omir finishing off a flurry of pressing attacks that we got. And I think this is a key sequence of the game. I mean, both in a very obvious literal way, but also just in terms of what to take away from this game, I think, at a higher level, where we conceded a goal, which is actually pretty similar to the goal we conceded at Nashville at the end of last year. Gave up kind of a dumb foul.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
I thought about that.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Making a lot of parallels this episode.
We were, I will say that the state of the game at the time we gave up the foul was, in my opinion, sort of just like wishy-washy. We weren't getting outplayed, but it was sort of just like a little messy, a little not in control. San Jose got into our final third a couple times, and then we eventually made a foul there that they whipped in, and I can't even remember their player anymore, but he hit a nice little flick on.
Chofis scored the goal, and Espinoza hit the kick. Yeah,
big Chofis had a nice little flick on header there, which is pretty hard to defend. In my opinion, I think the best way to not do that in the future is simply not to concede that foul. Really, right. I think the set piece defending, I'm not too worried about it based on that. But then there was that sequence about 5 minutes later where we, I think, just really flipped the switch and were able to consistently transition and just put the heat on San Jose's back line. And a consistent player in this was Caden Clark, who came on. And in the first two attempts, it must be said, pretty high profile moments, hesitated too long or flubbed the chance.
There's one where he dribbled too much.
Yeah, that was a particularly painful one, which was certainly a tough welcome back to the league and welcome back to first team minutes for Caden Clark. I'm going to pull my punches a little bit, and say that he did a lot of the harder parts right, I suppose, in his positioning, but maybe this will be a wake-up call to Caden to keep it simple, get you in the game, and the rest of the team, I think, was certainly there to force the issue. But I think this is the good takeaway here that, yes, we didn't convert those two first key breakaways through Caden Clark, but the team nonetheless was consistently just forcing the issue on San Jose for like 5 minutes straight. And then eventually we do get it to Omir, who just slides it under and nutmegs the San Jose keeper for the goal that put us back ahead, which is a great sight to see. I mean, I don't know if we had a single game like that last year where we were able to respond to a goal that quickly and kind of just put the heat back on and put ourselves ahead. Maybe that Orlando game was sort of like that, but
right.
That was, I think, very encouraging.
It felt like the way we responded was very oppressive, and that's good because I like seeing that from us. And it's really taking that, hey, you want to hate to play against us mantra, I think, really seriously, because it's like, oh yeah, if like we're making any passes in the midfield, you guys are really intercepting it, and it's going to be really frustrating.
Maybe also a sign that maybe San Jose thought that they were growing into the game a bit, and they're like, okay, yeah, maybe we'll knock it around and score a winner at home here. And then we said, bitch, you thought. But I think it was most clinical in that portion, but really for the kind of, I think, middle portion of the game from like 30th minute to 75th minute or so, we were doing a really pretty good job at cutting off any exit ball out of their own third. In particular, we were doing really well at finding the way onto like these sort of long balls or medium distance balls San Jose's back line were trying to hit, where it felt like it kept on finding our players' heads, and we kept on heading it down to somebody in the midfield there and instantly creating a sort of chance in the final third there that will be interesting. And San Jose was not a good team on Saturday.
It was weird that we had our weird manager crisis at the same week that San Jose was melting down even worse.
Yeah, Almeida got into a fight with a fan apparently for 5 minutes at the end of the game. I don't really know what his deal is.
The opposite of Greg Berhalter.
I kind of respect the chaos. I kind of fuck with Almeida's vibe.
I think it's funny
in a lot of different directions over the years, but yeah.
At least it's not us. For a second there,
right? It's better from afar.
But before kickoff on Saturday, I was sitting here thinking like, oh my God, we're San Jose East. Like, the manager thinks we're shit. Like, isn't talking to the sporting director. Like, is just thinks all the players are beneath him. But thankfully, I've walked off the ledge, as I've said. But yeah, presumably other teams will not play that directly into us, but hey, it's week 1. Both teams are rusty a little bit. God, we needed this. Excellent way to put them to the sword. And then, you know, I don't know, a lot of every team's schedules is against bad teams, right? And not every team actually consistently beats those teams. In fact, the thing that actually separates the great or good teams from the pack is consistently being able to do sort of what we did on Saturday. I don't think we really had many games at all like we had last Saturday. So putting that down as a marker is great. Getting 3 points on the board is great as well, because another thing that came out of Wednesday's press conference was, I think Aaron Long in his first press conference as captain sort of saying like, oh, you know, maybe we'll play till the international break and it might be sort of rough till then, and maybe we can figure it out after that. The thing that annoyed me about that comment was saying like, this is the time to take advantage of everyone being a little rusty, you know? You can rack up a point or two.
Yeah, we definitely got away with a couple of balls. Like I remember in the first half just thinking like, damn, like I think Drew Year was like is in the right positions a lot, but like the first touches he's taking is putting the balls into like dangerous areas.
And I do think that last season looks different if after 2 weeks we have 2 points instead of 0.
Yeah,
you know?
And we are getting away with I think those things because it's week 1, and it's a good growing pain to get over, as you're saying, because like, you know, we're scaling with the rest of the league during the course of the season. Right?
I mean, the perfect example, like sure, you know, whatever, San Jose's a bad team. I think that's kind of going to be consensus, but like the example that comes to mind for me is that over the past, 2, maybe even 3 seasons, like most of our Cincinnati games, we drop points, and they are a team of that caliber, if not worse, where we just like wouldn't show up and get
play down
points,
to their level.
play down to their level. But the fact that we could even do that on the road this season is already such a massive plus.
Yeah. Now that it's the next season, I feel confident in saying that home game against Cincinnati last year is becoming my equivalent for Struber with what a certain draw against Philly was for Jesse. Like a game that on paper was not the most consequential, biggest deal of the year, but sticks out to me as like the example of my least favorite things about each manager.
Armas in Chicago.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good one too. And although Armas, I mean, just I think by coincidence as well, being over COVID, I feel like that 1-0 win against City also sticks out as being a bizarre one too, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's so key to get this kind of win, this opportune win as well. And then also getting a nice little insurance goal, pardon the baseballism, but from Tom Barlow then to ice the game. Barlow on pace on pace to beat all of our prop bet predictions. He's on pace to score 34 goals this year. You know, provided that he maybe even more if he gets a start.
You know,
if he gets a start, he might get like 100 goals this year.
Per 90, yeah.
TommyShushTellHim.com.
Yeah, which is great.
Honestly, his goal was the best one of the 3. Yeah. It was the most convincing.
I was gonna say like maybe like, you know, this is the season where it all just clicks.
I mean, that goal was like a redemption for Clark too within the game, because it was great little like timing and feed by him.
A lot of great mini narratives that have developed and fleshed out and completed its arcs.
And now I know that this isn't literally true. I know we definitely had some chances last year that were as good as that one, but just about the way we were playing, I feel like it was much less often that we had a sort of clear chance like that. And I mean, we definitely had like these one-on-one moments with Barlow and maybe even Royer a couple times last year where we were mad that he couldn't put it away. But I feel like it was tighter moments, not as much time, you know, going through, and
this one we felt like in control and knew what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
It felt like because the chances kept coming, there was more composure and confidence in front of goal.
It felt way different from, and this was something that I don't know if we mentioned it on the show, but I think we've talked about it in person, that there was a quote that I liked from a Philadelphia player last year. You know, and Philly, you know, kind of playing a similar style to us tactically, having a Red Bull executive and whatnot, where he said, you know, because Philly had a lot of, you know, nobody in the Eastern Conference except New England was that far ahead of us last year. And Philly had some rough times last year with a lot of the same tactical struggles that we did. And one of their players had an interesting quote where he said, "It feels like we need a million things to go perfectly to score a goal."
Yeah.
And that felt a lot like what was going on with Red Bulls last year. And, what we're kind of talking about right now is very, very different from that in what we saw in some of the late stages in that game. And when when San Jose was starting to get stretched out and take more risks and we were getting more opportunities, we were much more, kind of purposeful with the ball than we had. And in the final third than we were last year.
I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring recently, so this is my analogy. But
little cult game that you're into.
Is that that's like a Skyrim type thing, right?
I've just heard everybody talking about it.
Well, it's like you've played Dark Souls ever? It's like kind of that.
It's like that genre game.
He probably hasn't. If he
sure, okay. Anyway,
it's like you just like walk around with a sword and you like fight people, right?
Yeah, and you dodge a lot of stuff. But it kind of feels like it feels like our attack's a little like less rehearsed. It's a little bit more of an ad lib or more organic. And like I bring up the video game because it's like, like sometimes you're in like a boss battle and you've like figured out one combo move and you're trying to get yourself in the position to make sure you can hit that one combo move before you back off and then keep hitting the same thing. And it kind of felt like we were trying to like force that one combo move last year every time we recycled the ball when we're in the final third. But this game was very much about like, hey, we're in transition. Let's take advantage of the moment. Like, let's just go after it and see what happens. And like, that's where our goals kind of came from. And that's kind of like been the bread and butter of this team, although the personnel has changed drastically over the last like 5 years or so. But, like I think in terms of kind of like where we've been and where we are and what we're comfortable with, it looked very much like that kind of counterattack that we fluidly like to see. Can you explain that in terms of Mario Kart? It's the most recent game I've played. No, yes. You don't actually have to. Okay, so when you get the blue shell coming towards you and you do the power slide thing. Oh, okay. Perfect. Mm-hmm. I think that makes sense though, because I think in terms of like big questions that we had about this team last week, but also just even before last week, I think one question or one hypothesis that we had is, will adding a player like Morgan and eventually Luquinhas make a difference in how this team looks further up the field, but also in general? And I think so far, based on Saturday, the answer is a resounding yes. It seems like that is what we needed, which again makes Struber's comments a little bit weird. Not a little bit, very weird on Wednesday, So cautiously, well, more than cautiously, I would say, pretty, excited about how we're going to play week to week now, which is a great feeling to have. Great feeling to have. We still have to prove it.
Let's go fuck up Toronto this weekend.
That's true. We play Toronto this weekend in Toronto on Saturday or on
2
Sunday?
2:00 Saturday.
I can't believe they put a Toronto game in March.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got Cheddar Bob in charge, but not
Bradley,
not very many players.
Who I saw was trending on Twitter because of Jesse Marsh.
Oh, well, yeah. I guess bravo to Jesse Marsh, by the way. Yeah. Got the Leeds job today.
Did you see he name dropped Sal Zizzo?
Yeah, Sal's theorem. I fucking love that.
Yeah, when you tweeted that, like, it's crazy that
speech that we love so much
was totally aped from Sal Zizzo. Which is just to say, this explains why he has a podcast, right?
Yeah.
He's the one who knows the most about soccer of all the podcasts.
He was the brains behind it all.
It's another case of German Americans stealing Italian American genius.
Oh shit! It's gonna snow on Saturday in Toronto.
Dang.
Ooh, a little bit
orange
of variety.
Ball.
Wow. Yeah.
When's the last time we played with an orange ball? I want to say we had a game in Colorado.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That disaster.
No RSL game?
Oh, did we lose that game?
We lost the Colorado game. That was when wasn't
that like was that the Rivas own goal game?
No, but I was gonna say 2018. There was an RSL snow game too.
That was a snow game?
Yeah.
It was like a weird one, right? Because it was like a little later.
Goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
the Colorado one's like super old because that was when like Sasha was captain and he like came over to the fans and was like, "We're sorry," because like they lost and like whatever.
That was a part of the 2016 like 1-6 slide.
Yeah,
because like that also contributed to the feeling that like we were just getting a little unlucky.
Yeah.
And also, I think Jermaine Jones played some sort of role in it. But
typical.
I do remember
there was also
Jermaine
US. There's a national team game in Mexico. I mean, not Mexico, in Denver.
Yeah.
Or Commerce City, right? That's the name
Dicks.
of
in the Dick House.
Exactly.
Dick House Productions.
Some dicks. We've got our own dicks now. We got Romance Depot that we can just go get our sporting goods from. But it's the beginning of the Bradley project there. We did watch after our game that we saw Josie Altidore in his new kit in New England, which is a weird sight to see. So no Josie in Toronto for the first time in
I'm fine with Ayo Akinola going up against our defense again.
Didn't he leave too?
I think he's still with them. I think he's their starting striker, isn't he?
He did not impress me at all last year.
That's what I mean.
Michael Bradley's not their starting striker.
He's their starting utility man at all times. Let's see who Toronto was playing with last week, because they're psych. I mean, everybody was talking about Insigne, but they're kind of cycling through a lot of guys right now and trying to put a squad together and are somewhat behind.
Is he even there yet?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he even signed?
Oh, Insigne is not coming until the summer.
Okay,
yeah, he's not there till the summer.
It's confirmed, right? Is it confirmed? Like, do we even know?
Suffice it to say, though, I think that Toronto, I think, is a big question mark here. I wouldn't be surprised if they scrape their way into a playoff spot this year, largely because, as we've said many times, the league is kind of shit right now. And, I think Bradley and Junior Bradley and Osorio and Pozuelo, they can probably fake their way into 6th or 7th place. Not beyond belief, but I would expect it to take a second or two to gel. Why did I think Pozuelo may have left? Am I inventing that?
He was like injured most of last year.
Someone left.
I thought there was I don't know.
Soteldo left.
Soteldo left. Soteldo left. But they have Carlos.
Was he ever really here?
Yeah. They brought in Carlos Salcedo, the Mexico national team guy, but they don't have any fullbacks. They got rid of Auro. Kemar is on his way out. They're playing.
Where's
Schaffelberg and some other, who knows? But they're playing like academy guys at fullback. Considering how much our game, especially what we saw on Saturday, is predicated on kind of overloading the wide areas, maybe that's an area we can feast.
Oh, I forgot Omar Gonzalez was also a Revolution pickup as well. Yeah. Was that a trade or was he just out of contract?
I think he was a free agent, yeah.
Damn. But good for you, Bruce.
Bruce just got all the boys back together.
We turned in late to their game on Saturday, and I don't know how they got 2 goals against Portland, because the section that we saw until the last 10 minutes, Portland were all over them. Well, it did take them scoring a worldie to tie it. So, but Toronto, though, I mean, yeah, I guess the question is, if it is cold as fuck and if it's snowing, I mean, that if I think we're better than them, and I do, that probably equalizes things more in their favor, right?
It seems like in this preseason, they've been in Jersey a lot and, playing through what's been a pretty rough winter around here. So I don't know, maybe they're kind of acclimated.
I think in terms of just making the game a little slower and uglier though, right? Although we always do good in the
slow, ugly soccer.
We get stuck in.
Yeah.
We seem better in the air already this year, I will say.
And we got Fletcher coming at some point, so it's like...
Yeah, I guess, I mean, that's been... I will say, I feel like this is... Well, no, I guess this is a pretty quick transfer in terms of rumor to signing, and I don't think the rumor ever even went public. I think we knew about it while it was still kind of on the down low, and then it was immediate. But he's been training with Watford in their season so far. He's probably not going to be here on Saturday, but he should be theoretically pretty quick. I mean, maybe the topic of Route 1 and being in the air is an opportune moment to talk about him, because this is a proper big lad, right?
I was reading the replies for the Watford stuff, and everyone seems to be like really mad that he's going on loan here.
All right.
because they were like, oh, they just signed him for 5 years and they're putting him on loan until July.
I wrote for Once a Metro that he, should be kind of an improvement aerially on Fabio. First off, Fletcher's listed at 6'1". He does not look 6'1". If you watch his clips, he's towering over guys. He's a solid like 6'3", 6'4", which is where Fabio was at. But he's scored a decent amount of goals with his head. Middlesbrough was his main place where he's had success in like an extended stint in England, where he scored a decent amount of goals with his head. But then I saw another read, just like, scouting report summary from England earlier today, where somebody said he needs to learn how to use his frame better. So maybe that means he kind of struggles in the box and in the air in kind of those duels. But I doubt he would be in the mix for Saturday. I don't think he's been confirmed as like, in the US yet, or, working on his visa.
Edwards
like
is.
the other guys. But I was just going to say Edwards is confirmed. Not only has in the US, but he did a training session with the team. So presumably he's on the way out from whatever injury.
He did a PP on video.
Yeah, exactly.
So that means it's official.
Edwards and Tolkien are just like besties, man.
Yeah.
Do you think that if Edwards is fit, or when Edwards is fit, do you think he gets in the lineup over Dylan Nealis?
I think so.
Okay.
But does Aaron Long go on the left side?
I don't know.
That's an interesting thought, and I think probably that's what I would anticipate happening, but I guess we'll have to see.
Didn't he play on the left side? Like
Aaron Long?
Yeah.
He's Aaron Long.
Right?
Aaron Long is preferred.
Parker, like he played left to
Long,
Parker's right.
Long's always, even though he's right-footed, is the most preferred to play on the left if you only have right-footed center backs.
And then we just have Tom on the right center back.
Yeah.
Monson's left-footed, right?
Yeah.
Tom and Morgan on the right side. That's a nice bit of width right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice bit of passing.
Layers, like shark teeth of width.
Yeah.
So is it like kind of consensus that Morgan will be this wing back role kind of indefinitely, or have we considered that like that Tom might play that wing back role and then Morgan plays the CCJ role?
I would like to see that tried eventually, and I hope that is kind of in the works. Like, yeah,
there's something, right?
I think Tom is like, he's probably just better as in like a back four as a fullback than, and I think
as a fullback, probably.
True,
in that wing back role.
But in the 3-5-2, I mean, he's like perfect as one of the three center backs.
Exactly, yeah,
or as the wide right center back.
I think, you could definitely have Edwards as a right back in a 4-2-3-1 or 4, as whatever you like, 4-2, whatever. And have Morgan further up the field. I have to think we'll see that at least, maybe even just as an in-game adjustment eventually in some game, right? Like,
I think we'll see it out of necessity for staffing, if anything.
Yeah,
just
it would be impressive if we find a way to play three at the back all year with no variations. It would be sort of weird, but I imagine we'll eventually see Morgan probably further up alone. I don't know. We'll see. But I would guess that for the next couple of weeks, he'll probably be the wing back, right? Or
I would guess so, yeah.
Yeah. Do we have a sense of when Luquinhas might get here?
It's just visa stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have an answer. I mean, it's, it seems like there's a lot of players around the league that are, held up by visa stuff. So he's probably in line.
Yeah, I don't imagine that's necessarily the smoothest time to get a visa.
He'll be here when he's here. Like,
yeah. Well, I don't think there's too much to say more specifically about Toronto unless anyone has anything they'd like to say. And maybe this is an opportunity as well if there are any newer listeners, I guess, to say that our approach to the opposition nowadays has kind of been more looser. We're not necessarily always gonna bring on somebody to tell us in high detail how they're gonna match up, especially with the league, with our kind of working framework that we have of the league being sort of messy and kind of in flux right now. especially at the early part of the season. I think we're just kind of going to size up each team as it comes. And I think the expectation and hope is that we sort of just assert ourselves on the more mediocre teams. Anyway,
unless we get someone to come explain.
Yeah, I'm not ruling it out, but we're not going to necessarily go up the team sheet. Yeah,
and we're not going to pretend like Toronto is, the next stop on our tour of MLS to see all the teams that are way cooler than us, like certain media outlets do.
I'm excited to see Chris Mavinga again. I think he was one of the more colorful faces or reactions in the last time we saw Toronto. And
yeah, that's right.
I think he
Marky Delgado's gone though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he was one of the better watches in that game.
Where did he end up?
He's in LAFC, I think, or Galaxy, one of the LA teams, because he's from there. But yeah,
I mean, Alex Bono is still
there. setting up Omir for another goal.
Jonathan Osorio, still only 29. Wow.
Damn.
Is Michael Bradley just officially assistant coach now, basically?
I mean, especially now. I mean, last year it was his older brother, and this year it's his dad. So,
yeah, he's on track for Manchester United in just a few years.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. All right. So, what do you expect out of this game away to Toronto on a cold Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. local time?
I don't know. Let's. I'm like, it's just like
what are you looking for?
I'm saying like I feel like we're in a good vibe. Like we're in like a good momentum right now. I think the headspace of the team is good. I think going into like maybe a tough weather game will be good for us. I think like last year really strengthened the team's mental health. Like all the guys who were still here from last year went through last season. So, like, I think if it comes to a battle of like who's stronger, internally, who has the medal, I think it's us easily. So, I'll say like we win again.
Word. I think it's gonna be a lot of funny business, cause it's gonna be snowy and cold and I don't know, just weird weather game. I kind of want Drew Yearwood to pop off though, and just like boss around that midfield, which I just think is going to be a little, I don't know. I think it'd be pretty easy to knock around Bradley, especially. So I think we can get a win. I think that it might be like a 1-1 draw though.
I was going to say a 0-0 draw. Because I can see, especially with the conditions and, just my general gut feeling is that this will be a game that tilts more towards the side of early season games where neither team can really get any chances to connect. And it's really cagey. And then it ends up just kind of being 1 or 0-0 and both teams just kind of take their way home. But yeah, kind of on what you were just saying, Brit and Peaches, about having guests to preview the opposition if we have them. We fucking missed the opportunity to invite Luke Savage and Will Sloan on to preview Toronto.
I mean, it just reminds me of that time I was at a film festival in Kitchener, Ontario, and Jonathan Osorio's dad came up to me and said, "I'm so sorry for the Governor General's Stamp Act of 1845.
And then one day when I was walking to Justin Bieber's high school and, looked at the soccer field there and saw the Hall of Fame plaques. And,
I mean, it really reminds me of this film I saw about Winnipeg. It's 40 hours long and in Métis French. It's just really quite a tour de force, folks. But yeah, next time we play them twice a season, so really can shove all of that in, and also we can ask them about our Werner Herzog / Struber impersonation. Really, actually, they're the experts on that. So I think for Toronto, it reminds me that last year when we played them, I mean, that was one of the games at the front end of our summer skid, and I think it was typical in a way that we lost the draw very late in that game. I think Josie kind of just like turned someone or just kind of forced his way in. And I do think it was a bit unlucky in a sense, and that was their first game back in Canada in like years. You know, it was like after being in exile in Florida because of COVID stuff. And I think, you know, we had just been on the back of a couple of heartbreaking losses or draws. So I at the time last year, I kind of gave us a little bit of wiggle room because I do think that between the crowd and the team and Toronto's team, there was legitimately an unusual amount of energy and push behind them that there probably wouldn't have been every year. So, you know, so to speak, or hopefully we're prepared to be in that building again next year. And I don't think it'll be anything like that. This weekend, I mean, I am leaning sort of 0-0 as well, but I'll be satisfied. I think with a point, certainly 4 points on the road to get us into the home opener would be fantastic, in my opinion. So with that, any other thoughts for this week until we say goodbye until episode 202 next week?
Save the good stuff for 202.
Yeah. Really what if we just do a clip show? What if we just do best of Bradley Carnell stories for 202? It'd be a lot of work for the edit, but I think it could be worth it.
We only have 2 episodes where we did that.
Oh, there's no way. Okay, I have to write more material then for next week. All right. Till then, tune in to find out.